Hey guys, welcome to this week's AECVC, my weekly view behind my own scenes and how I prepared my mind for during the last week. So number one, I've thought about how to actually analogize between options trading and especially Theta Decay and sharing information from private companies such as startups. Two, I briefly thought about what the new government election within Germany could bring and could potentially kick off in terms of a new economic cycle for infrastructure construction. And three, we published a new version of the AEC Tech Internet Index. So let me run you through real quick. Theta Decay. In the Black-Scholes model for option trading, theta basically means the sensitivity of the option to the underlying passing of time. And Theta Decay means the closer you come to the expiration date of the option, the less valuable the value of your option becomes. There's an extrinsic portion, there's an intrinsic portion. Doesn't matter, the less valuable your option will become unless the underlying asset strongly appreciates. But in general, if you lose time, you lose value. That's pretty logical, isn't it? Now, if you are building a startup or if you're investing in a startup, the more information you share with the external world, the more you're giving them your playbook and the information to copy what you're doing. And with that, you're moving the deadline, how long you have a sustainable insight, an unfair insight, more to the front. And with that, your Theta Decay increases and the value of your option to work with an unfair level of insight goes down. So that's a thought-provoking way to think about it. And in the context of construction tech, I love to think about it that way because our markets are so quirky. Oftentimes opportunities can be very hidden, they can be very nuanced. So the value you can truly have from having an unfair level of insight is more than perhaps in many other industries which are more obvious, which are more Googleable, more LLMable, etc. So if you're a founder building in our sector with an unfair level of insight, you want to keep that to yourself as long as possible. And if you do, you're maximizing your Theta. So that's one way to think about it. Two, the German governmental election is coming up. And so by the time we're publishing this, it's already over. But what I'm seeing is that Europe is going to invest heavily in defense and it's going to invest heavily in infrastructure in the next government cycle, if not longer. Now, it's investing in defense in spite of not having a broad unanimous consent across the German parliaments or the European parliaments, and yet Europe will do that because it is obviously forced to do it, and I think that's something that, will happen. In construction of infrastructure, it's even more pronounced because if you look across the political spectrum, actually there's a broad political consensus across the spectrum from left to right that Germany needs to invest in its infrastructure. And so when this uncertainty of the government election gets removed, with this broad consensus across the political spectrum, I actually would not be surprised if there is a new era of optimism being kicked off by the next governmental cycle. And one form how it will manifest is actually through investments in infrastructure in Germany and potentially across Europe. The one thing Germany will have to get rid of or handle or bypass in some way is its constitutional debt brake. So the next government will have to figure that out. But then it might actually kick off an era of dynamism, starting with construction and starting specifically with construction and reconstruction of grid infrastructure, road infrastructure, highways, tunnels, data centers, you name it. So quite optimistic about what's going to happen here. And finally, we published the next AEC Tech Internet Index, the February edition. It holds really interesting insights. We have a massive leader from the last month from the reality capture space, which hasn't shown up in a very long time. Also with massive standard deviation. So there was really breakout months here for them compared to the previous ones. But look it up if you want to know who it is. We see the outcome as a service category growing really nicely between Enter, Erdion, and others. And so the whole Internet Index tracks all these startups within AEC Tech that have raised more than 25 million of equity. We'll make a few additions here because there were a few companies that raised or that cleared that bar over the last 2 to 3 months. We'll add them with the next editions. But overall, you're going to find really interesting insights here. So check out the 3 links in order to find my opinion on Theta Decay and why it's beneficial for you to keep information to yourself in construction tech founding. You find my take on the German governmental election and the possible kickoff of a new infrastructure and economic boom cycle, and then the AEC Tech Internet Index from February. See you. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe under aecvc.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. See you next time.